Hello, thank you for your interest in Siege and Destroy the game. This is Meki, the main developer of this game and the founder of Mekitron. Always please be safe when you play. I don't want you to go and hit someone or destroy something with your hand. And if you feel motion sickness, any signs of motion sickness, please take a break and be careful when you play. Now, Siege and Destroy is a game where you have to destroy basically the enemy before you are destroyed. We're gonna go over tutorials on how to play these game modes so far, which we have. In the future, these will increase. Right now, they give you an idea on what's coming. And basically, if you watch this video, you do not have to go through the tutorial. You can still do it to practice, but hopefully I can give you enough tips that allows you to be very good in these 3 game modes. Now, one note that I would like to talk about is you have 2 controllers. One has a laser beam and one does not. The one with the laser beam is the left hand. The one without the laser beam is the right hand. At this point, this is important when you want to control the minimap. We are working on improving this so that it wouldn't matter which controller is which. So let's go to this invasion mode. The story goes as we invaded a planet and there were other people on this planet that got there before us and we have to eliminate them. So in the invasion mode, you land on the planet and the enemy does not know or is not aware of your presence. But because you're just landed, there are no weather models or gravity model of the planet. So basically you can predict where your projectiles are going in the general direction, but you cannot tell where they will land, and that's what makes you a good captain, is if you can actually estimate where the shells will land. Now, in the second one, invasion, you have to destroy the enemy within 100 shells. The story goes as you use all your shells, whether you actually do or not, and now you have to defend yourself until reinforcements arrive. Then, when you get reinforcement, you have to go and eliminate the remaining enemies. So let's go to invasion. You will see that there is yaw and pitch. Colors match. Green is pitch, yaw is red. These are to control the movement of your cannon. There's a small cannon in front of you, which matches the movements of the actual cannon. This way you don't have to always look back when you move the cannon in front of you. So now you're moving the cannon, and then you can fire. Now to fire, move any controller to this button, make it touch, and push the trigger. Actually, to control with anything, you have to move the controller to it, make it touch, push the trigger, which is this button, and while holding the trigger, you can interact. So I will move the controller to the green button, make it touch, and push the trigger. In every mission, you will see the objective. So right now we fired 2 shells. We have to destroy all the enemies before we run out of shells. This is my shield. Right now it will stay at 100% because the enemy is not firing back. To your right, you will find an RPG launcher, or just RPG. To hold it, move any controller, make it touch somewhere here in this general area. So basically somewhere starting from the wood. And keep holding the trigger on the controller. If you release the trigger, it will go back to its location. Now, here is the front of the RPG launcher. Here's the back of the RPG launcher. This is the trigger which you use to fire the shell. The shell is on your left. You move the controller to it somewhere here in the middle. Hold the trigger. And now the hardest part probably for you. You cannot just do this. It won't fit. I mean, imagine it's a real thing. How do you do it? You have to put it in, right? Not like this. It won't go like this. You have to put it in the mouth properly. Now, it doesn't have to be very accurate, like watch now. It's actually escaping. But to know that it actually loaded, it will snap in location. See, it got snapped in location. Now to fire, move the controller to the second handle and then push the trigger. And then it will fire. Now, with practice, you can do it fast, see? So let me turn here and show you. It's very seamless when you get used to it. Now, notice that when I load it, I move both the right hand to the front and this to the left. So this way, it's much easier to fire. It requires a little bit of practice, but you'll get it. It's not that hard once you know what you need to do. Now, first you may release this one by mistake. You will find it to your right. And guess what? It's already loaded. Now let's talk about the minimap. You have to use the right controller to control the minimap. We are improving that for the next releases. Move the controller to the middle of the map, and you want it to be generally in this position, something like almost perpendicular to the map. Move it to the middle, then push the trigger, and then you can move the map and you can rotate it. Now, rotation is the trickiest part. You need to get used to it, but we need to improve it. Right now, most people, we realize that when they try to rotate the map, they want to hold it with both hands and move it. From a gameplay point of view, you want to be quick, you want to be efficient, so you may want to be able to controlling the map. You're controlling the cannon while moving the map. So we're trying to find the nice way to give you control with one hand. So to rotate it, hold the map like this, push the trigger, and jerk it to the left and to the right. To stop the rotation, you release the trigger. When the controller disappears, that means you have control of the map. Now, left, I'm gonna go to the right, see? All I did is held the trigger and I did this motion. Right, left. Now this cone, this is the wind speed. This tells me the wind speed. The wind is coming in that direction. So the cone points in the direction of the wind. The bigger the cone, the stronger the wind. We're going to change the color of that cone so it doesn't blend with the environment around it, and you can always see it. This laser beam points to where towards your direction. So if I move my cannon to the right, you see the laser beam is moving to the right. Now, right now the wind is working against me. But if I point the laser beam to the right side, it pushes the shells in that direction. So part of the game is, can you actually hit the enemy while wind speed is changing? How much does the wind affect the shell? Right now, not that much, because it may be too hard for you to finish missions, but that will be a function of a game difficulty, which we want to talk to you about next. Now, before we do that, there is the menu button, which it's around here, basically. If you push it, you can pause the game. So let me fire a shell. I pause the game. I pause the game again. It doesn't matter which controller. Now, to restart the game, if you hold the triggers on both controllers while the game is paused, you restart the game. We're improving that to make it 3 seconds at least, so you don't accidentally restart the game when you die. Many times you're doing things and you end up restarting the mission without seeing what actually happened. And to quit the game, push both trigger buttons, both grip buttons, which are over here, simultaneously while the game is paused. Left hand is laser. So let's go to battle for now, just because we can. Again, it's another mission, but now the enemy will actually fire at me. Now, future plans. Let's talk about future plans. Graphics, we're not going to improve these immediately until we get feedback about how smoothly the game is running. Hopefully there are no issues. The frame rate is high enough on all graphic cards that run VR. We worry that we over-designed the game and it wouldn't run as smooth on weaker graphic cards. But we can still improve the gameplay in the meantime until hopefully the game is released and every graphic card can satisfy the minimum requirements. Then we can bump the material up to give you nice shades and shadows, etc. Now we can basically add better materials. You can adjust that, you know, like you go to the menu and you say increase settings, etc. But we thought that it's better to focus on developing other game features than that for now. We're focusing on the gameplay. Notice the enemy's getting closer to me. So we want to really bring multiplayer to VR and co-op, also 1 versus 1, 5 versus 5, etc. So a co-op game would be in a way where you have more AI firing at you. One person controls the cannon, while the other person has to defend. It has to be designed a little bit differently to allow 2 people to be in. And so far, the winning idea is the actual person controlling the cannon will be sitting actually on top of the cannon and moving. And basically, the person will be moving the cannon and rotating with it. It would be nice it will be a sitting type of gameplay, not standing. So this way, if you know someone who doesn't have space to stand, or they cannot stand for a long time and they want to sit, you can give them that role where they sit all the time. Notice that the shield, after the shield goes to 0, you hear a siren. And if you get hit after your shield goes to 0, basically it's game over. So I'm going to restart the game. Now, one of the ideas we're experimenting with is when the shell is very close to you, if you destroy it, you can absorb some of its energy to recharge your shield by about 1% or so. This will give you incentive to shoot down, to delay your timing as much as possible to shoot down the shells to gain that energy. But would you actually take that risk when you have multiple shells coming at you, or would you want to bring the shells down as soon as possible? So that's the way you have to balance the equation. Other things we want to do is perhaps add a shockwave, which you can use once in a gameplay, which propels all the incoming projectiles coming at you. Other things we're looking at is, can you have different type of cannons, which perhaps one fires very fast, but does less damage, or one that fires slower does more damage, or one that has some form of automatic defense, not very accurate defense, but it's defense and it can shoot down projectiles, maybe 15% of the projectiles coming at you. But of course, it comes at the cost of something, which we have to determine. There's so many ideas that we are studying, but these are the main ones. Another thing is we want to make the minimap more interactive. So when you move the controller on top of the minimap, you see a much more accurate control, and you can actually hit the shell and a window will open giving you information on whether the shell is likely to hit you or not hit you. And maybe you can mark it, and it will mark it with some kind of graphic, like a spherical, transparent shield while it's incoming at you, so you know that this is important or it's not. Basically, you would push something on the sphere and then you say mark it, and then you're tracking that shell. Now for multiplayer, if we add 5 versus 5, and actually with multiplayer, that's where the real fun starts. If you're playing 5 versus 5, 4 versus 4, you can either choose 2 per cannon or 4 each controlling his cannon versus 4 or 2 per cannon. Now when that happens, if you're playing against 4, 4 will decide to attack one person. And if these 4 or 5, doesn't matter, if they synchronize their attack, it's tough for one person to actually defend, assuming all the shells are going to go and hit the player. So the allies have to also use their RPGs if they're close to that player to defend the player. One thing we want to experiment with is can we put a moving vehicle which one player chooses to use? That's for players sitting and not standing gameplay. And basically they would drive the vehicle and try to shoot down the projectiles coming at a person. But first, before we go to 4v4 and 5v5, we want to bring 1 versus 1 and co-op play until there is enough players online, hopefully soon, playing this game. Now, in 1 versus 1, you cannot use the RPG because it would be basically impossible to die. You won't use the RPG, but it's turn-based. Actually, either turn-based or same way with the global. Now the game is over. Let me restart it. Either turn-based or same type of global cooldown. And then when one player locks on another player, the player who's locking can keep firing at the player until the wind speed changes, and then the player has to adjust the target, the aim to hit the target again. It will probably be 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5. So by that time, probably we can get enough feedback from players on where would they like to see the game going. Thank you for your interest in this game, Siege and Destroy, and we'll keep you posted on all the developments. The coming patch, the very first coming patch, will have some achievements. So this will give you a purpose to play the game, and it will also give you stats. So probably you can compete with your friend in a party who can destroy most shells or who can finish a game with least shells, etc. Thank you very much.